Push fittings for a plumbing or the plumbing industry, a quick way to install a fitting. There are sundry different pipes. For instance, this particular pipe here is PEX pipe. This is a blue pipe, but the color may or may not make any difference. There's also red. This is color coded, so this may be the cold side. The red may be the hot side. But now the question is, if one switches these, will it make a difference? It may not make a difference as far as the water traveling to and fro. However, it would be good if one can keep the blue for the cold and the red from the hot, versus the old-timey pipe, the copper pipe. And then at least you know when you go back to the house or underneath the house, and it makes it quicker, faster, and it just expedites things when one tries to when one goes back to it to do the plumbing, to add on, say if you were adding an ice maker or if you were adding another fixture, utility, etc. And then, but the topic of this conversation would be, question, these push fittings, they're great. And now I've heard some people say pros and cons about these. My experience is they're wonderful. However, the expense level to plumb an entire house just may not be a practical thing unless you want to spend a lot of money. If you've got a big bank account and you don't mind spending money, have at it. But if you're on a budget, they still come in handy. But notwithstanding, they have their limitations. So my experience is, every time I've used these, if they leak, the problem is normally the way I installed them, not necessarily due to the fitting. Say if I cut this pipe at an angle, or I had dirt or grime on this pipe, etc. But the push fittings here, you simply take the fitting and you put it here and you push it on. But the tip here is, okay, when you're putting these fittings on, if you want to make it easier on yourself, you can get a bottle of water and a spray bottle, something along here. And if you want to take the time, and it's like, and this is just what I've come up with. I'm not sure if it's an original or not. But anyway, notwithstanding, if one takes and say, hypothetically, just sprays the fitting down here. If we see the fitting, spray the fitting down, or sometimes even just spray inside of the fitting here. Now, I'm not sure. Okay, when one goes to put this on now, then it seems to, for instance here, if I'm putting this on, I've got this up here. Normally I wouldn't do it this way, but I just push it here, and it makes it so much easier to go on. And one may ask, well, what is it going to? Is the water going to mess the fitting up? And my opinion is, I'm not certain, but I've never had any trouble with it. So just plain water, and it just seems to be, when you push the fitting up, it seems to make the fitting grab, and once the fitting, it just seems to make it slide on here. The water will evaporate, and the fitting should hold. And if you want to, if you're very detailed oriented, you could take and wipe it off with a rag if you wanted to. Normally I don't. But that's not to say it's right or wrong. But if you'll just take a spray bottle, if you're putting the fitting on there, and spray the pipe or spray the fitting will it seems like to me it just slides up there a lot easier when putting it on. So, and now if you're doing one or two, you may not want to do it, but if you're doing 3 or 4, it may be worth carrying a bottle and doing it. If that depends, whatever each individual wants to do, but it just seems to be, it seems to make the push fitting slide up a little bit easier, in my opinion. But That's not to say it's right or wrong, but that's sometimes I do it this way, sometimes I don't. So thank you for watching. Have a great day.